Biden heading to Boston tomorrow, where he'll meet the Prince and Princess of Wales, as another racially charged controversy is rocking Buckingham Palace. Joining me now, CNN contributor Trisha Goddard. Trisha, I'm so glad to see you. When you hear about what has happened to Ngozi Fulani, I mean, the repeated questioning by this woman, doubting really in her question alone that she couldn't really just have the heritage of somebody from the UK or England, but wanting to know, no, that can't be true. I mean, we've seen this before. I know you and I have talked about this in the past. This feels like deja vu, but the persistence of it, what do you think?
Well, it's something that many of us, people of colour in the UK, were, it was commonplace 25 or 30 years ago. And I think our mistake has been being lulled into a false sense of security that those days were over. I mean, there are some 2.5 million people of colour who see themselves as British. You only have to look at our soccer teams, for instance, and the stars are like Marcus Rashford. Nobody asks him where he's really from when he scores a winning goal. But, it's still a hangover from those days. And we have to remember, I mean, when we talk about institutional racism, we have to understand that the royal family, elements of the crown that Camilla may or may not be wear on her head, are from countries that in the past Britain robbed and enslaved their people. So there still is that. For people you say, oh, that's in their past. I mean, my mother's maiden name was Fortune, a slave name. I mean, my great-grandparents were born into servitude and what have you. So it's not that long ago. So this whole conversation of where are your people from, and Ngozi at one stage said, I don't know, they don't keep records, which was to touch upon the whole thing about slavery. We don't know where we came from. And yet this woman persisted. It's a difficult one to explain because it's also one of privilege. It's like, I'm allowed to ask these questions because I'm a proper British person.
Well, Trisha, when you're talking, it's striking to think of the parallels of the conversations that are happening stateside, obviously. The ideas of who is entitled to be an American, who's thought of as a real American, the ideas of white supremacy, the replacement theory, so many different areas that we are grappling with, it seems really globally about these issues. And it's this almost the subtlety of the ignorance that is so stunning. I mean, the attempted subtlety of it. Because the question, and she was there, I understand, for the 16 days of activism, she was there believing she was being asked about the organization she represented, the idea of trying to help to stop abuse of women and girls. And then in that moment, there's a kind of an abuse that's happening that she felt by being almost browbeaten into trying to say, well, yeah, I guess I'm not really one of you.
Yeah, there's a class thing as well going on there. And you know what is doubly frustrating is that the vast majority of our press, I've been looking through press reports, I've seen one in the Guardian newspaper that gives me hope, hallelujah. But because one of the things that are very different about the UK and the US, our newsrooms are almost exclusively white. If you take away the sports desk, and I know the few black reporters there who have struggled with this. If you look at the comments on some of these newspapers in answer to this whole reporting of this story, if you look at the slant of the reporting of this story, and it depends whether that newspaper has been successfully sued by a royal as to how they report it, but the comments underneath, many of the newspapers actually say the comments here have been moderated. I mean, when you say the comments have been moderated, some of them I think, who by the KKK?
We're talking about this at a time when William and Kate are in the United States of America, in Boston, right? We think about Boston as a very critical time of the breaking away from England, the idea of a rejection in this nation of a monarchy. We also know that here, living today, of course, is his brother and his sister-in-law, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, and I know the titles have changed, etc. But I just wonder, in this quest to have a new monarchy, this idea of trying to break away from what we're talking about, some of these connotations, the ideas and the criticism, do you think that this is something that is a setback that can be attributed to them? Or is this part of the breaking of kind of the old guard.
Yeah, I think it's a part of the dismantling of the old guard, and it's not just this. I mean, we've got to look at Charles and Camilla. I'm a little bit biased here because I've met both of them, but they are trying to make steps forward, but it's a very old, cumbersome monster of a vehicle. You know, they're not going to turn it around quickly. The press in the UK is making this very much William versus Harry. You know, they love this idea of the old guard versus the new guard, and who are you, Team Harry and Meghan, or are you know, Team William and Kate, which is just puerile. It's so puerile, but it's clickbait, isn't it? And race is always great clickbait.
Unfortunately, it persists as clickbait, and sometimes people believe that it's actually truth, and will go down the rabbit hole, and then we see the consequences. For example, as you're talking about as well. Trisha Goddard, so nice to talk to you. Not about this, but always getting your insight is so important. Thank you.
Thank you so much.